Scissors, a Memoir by Dalrymple. I was born in Guyana, South America. Mommy never said where exactly, but left that place and moved to Agricola, where she brought us up. My sister and I attended St. Anne's High School for girls. It's almost as if my first memory is of that snipping sound to cut me away from my mother. I loved my mother when she was with me. Still do. She went home to glory carried off by some sickness or another, but she's with me every day. Mommy was strong, but she was never quite right after Daddy left us. Probably because he just seemed to up and disappear. Mommy used to scrub floors and keep house for those highfalutin families in town, but best of all, she sewed clothes. She had the finest hand stitching, and those who could afford to pay had their little princesses dressed up in the finest, all sewn by my mother. My sister and I were the only girls on our street who wore those fine stitched clothes. Mummy's boss ladies would give her the remnant cloth, cottons and silks, crepes and lace and seersucker. Mummy would make us the most delicate and beautiful dresses, which we enjoyed twirling around at fellowship lunch. You know what they used to call church picnic? And outside the churchyard just before going into service. Stop that! A stern whisper would seep from between Mummy's lips, just loud enough for all those church sisters to hear she was taking care of business. And then she'd secretly wink her eye just to let us know everything was all right. The kitchen table either had food laid out with all the wares or cloth Mummy was cutting. Snip, snip. Oh, how I loved that sound. Snip, snip. Such an even and crisp sound. You only just get that sound with it good and sharp, Mummy used to say. I wanted to be just like her. She put her heart into everything she did, including to love Daddy, which wasn't easy. Daddy was in and out of work and seemed to hate Mommy working for somebody while he worked for nobody. It's almost as if she could sense when he'd be coming home drunk. Come on, girls, hurry, put them blades away. Away was a secret slip drawer in the dresser where Mommy kept all her best china and pretty things, as we used to call them. Daddy would have never looked there, but best of all, he would have never thought that that big dark dresser could keep a secret. In that, the dresser and Mummy were alike. Big, dark, pretty, necessary in my life, and the keeper of secrets. It would be years before I learned that. Mummy's biggest secret was keeping it from church sisters how bad Daddy would beat her, and there was nowhere in that dresser to keep that. My mornings were met with an assault on my senses. The delicious breakfast smell of cured ham and eggs, fresh baked bread, bakes, pineapple slices, and hot cockatiels. And of course, that snipping sound along with Mummy humming hymns. My sister and I shared a bed and mostly woke up at the same time. Once we washed our faces and freshened up, we were always allowed to table. Daddy was always gone by then, working or not. It was just us three again, my favorite time. I remember one particular morning, Mummy had a look of knowing on her face. Come here, I want to show you all how. She showed us how to cut that day. The blades cut through the cloth like butter, and I took to it like a bird to flight. I mean, that sound also came with a sensation in your hand as you cut and brought about shapes that would soon adorn any wearer. All blades were safe in our hands. They didn't miss the rent, and they bought the food. They were another member of our household. They gave us everything, and we respected them with every clean cut. Each year that passed my life with my own blades in my hand saw me become a magician, for in my hands I could do magic. Mummy taught me well. My sister left us after she got pregnant and forced the father to marry her. If you don't marry me, Lenny Watkins, I'm going to cut you like my mother and sister just do that cloth. To me, Lenny was a simpleton who was always looking for love, looking for a friend. Now he had both for life, me sister and the baby. As time passed, to hear that glorious sound, it would be me who would have to do the cutting. I cut for high days and holidays, sad times and low times, and mostly all the time. Like Mummy, my hand stitching was perfect and unique. You knew my work just by looking at it, and I earned every penny. I took care of Mummy and the bills. We were happy, but folk needed us to be needed by a third party. Turn right. They need a man in the house. Women folk alone need a man. Their talk was never quiet enough for us not to hear. Snip. That sound blocked the talk from our ears. Mommy would preach often. Don't like it, cut it out. Don't want it, cut it out. Don't need it, do just the same. I tried to cut it out. Tried to block the voice of local sweet boy Frederick Holder, a ne'er-do-well son of a rich man who was rumored to have gained his fortune as a pork knocker. Every woman in town wanted her daughter to catch his eye. When you coming out with me? A twice weekly question at best. You need to come out with me. Come to the dance now. I could show you a good time. You would have fun. Snip, snip, snip. The crunch of those blades through the softest of material, the crisp sound through the most rigid of fabrics was satisfying, and it soothed me. You coming to church with us this Sunday, Fred? Mummy would ask most Friday evenings when we would see him. She would give him her best side eye upon asking, That boy need Jesus. I can smell the devil. Mummy could always smell something in somebody. The devil, troubled souls, even sadness. She was right. Frederick was fresh and forward. He prided himself on his good looks and the fact that his father had land and money. He didn't like to hear no. In short, Frederick was a bully. Why no man in the house? He would ask me when Mummy stepped out. Where your daddy? Snip. I needed my favorite sound to cut his words from my ears. Snip, snip, snip. You need me in the house. You need me in your life. I got money, you know. The sound of my faithful twin blades blocked the sound of his voice. Snip. But not his smell. I could smell the carbolic he bathed with. His cologne was strong, mixed with limacol and Dixie peach pomade he used on his hair and to shine his face. He was determined to get answers. He drew close to me. I said, Fred, I need to cut. I got work for do. I got customers. I trembled. Snip. He stood beside me and I could feel him lustfully pushing himself up against my leg. I trembled. Snip. Why you does act like you don't need nothing to nobody, he bullied. Snip. Snip. He stood sidelong of me and with one hand grabbed the back of my neck and was forcing me forward to kiss him. And with the other hand grabbing the cloth of my dress and my petticoat. I remembered I yelled, Stop, Fred, stop! I was hollering for Mommy. Mommy! Where was Mommy? Why didn't she come? Finally, I heard... Snip. Frederick lost his grip on me and fell to the floor. Mommy stood behind him. I stood silently watching him still and bleeding. I wanted to scream, and I found my attention turning to the blades in my hand. What had I done? There they were. As always, beautiful, dependable, faithful, and clean. Where was Frederick's blood? Mommy was standing with dirt on her finely stitched dress, on her face and hands, and holding her own twin companions. She was still. The same twin companion she used to cut with when we were children. Old they were and rusty. She looked up slowly at me from the same scene I had been staring at. I then caught sight of the open dresser slip drawer. Hm, she snorted with derision. Different day, same dog. Just like your daddy. He never knew when to leave me alone. Mommy's voice was calm and determined, with quiet anger. My trance-like state broke and I looked out the back door, where she had stepped in from, to see a large, crude, man-sized hole in the dirt. When I looked back at Mommy, she was revealing a handkerchief from the concealed pocket in her skirt of her dress. She dusted it off. Her signature stitches of delicacy were covered in dirt and age. I was frozen and tried to block out the heinousness of what lay on the kitchen floor, the same that stained my mother's hands. You know, I stitched this kerchief for your daddy before you girls were born, she said, referring to the beautiful square that she held. I couldn't find it for years. I've been looking for it. Your daddy had it. She frowned. She looked out toward the backyard and then back at me, holding me in her gaze until a blink broke it. She walked to the back door and stepped outside once again, standing over the hole. She placed her hands on her hips and looked directly at me. You know, she said, I reckon it's about time for your daddy and Frederick to meet. Snip.